Hello, everybody. I have seen that many astrologers still don't use Stellarium. They don't know how to use it. And since it's such an easy app, I just want to give a very short tutorial how to do this. So this is the page that you will see when you start Stellarium. Basically, if you switch it on the day, you won't see much. So we have two toolbars here on the left when you hover over it with the mouse, and you have another one down here. Now, I usually start here. We can set our place of observation, right? You can choose one. You can also put your, your cursor here. You would go in any place that you tick. Let's say, well, I'm in Italy, so I put my mouse here, and it will show me any location, and it can be more specific in, say, for example, Rome or whatever. So this is to set the place. You can also use the latitude and the longitude to be very specific. And Stellarium will use this location. Next thing is you will set the time that you want to to observe. Let's say I want to know what happened on the equinox. So I go back, set a date. I can set the exact time I want to see. So this is how it's done. You can change the years. You can even make it BCE with a little minus before it. I use it all the time for very long researches. So let's say I want it for this year. So, okay, as astrologers, we are not astronomers. We might have problems to see things in the sky without guidance. So we need our line. So first of all, we need an ecliptic and we need the equator and possibly the horizon. So look here, you switch to the third icon and there is markings. You click on markings and then you will use the equator of date, which means the equator of now, of today, of the moment you observe it. And then you will use ecliptic of date. I would not switch on solar dates if you do not need it for particular research. Then I would also click on the horizon. And we have the cardinal points set. So this is my usual working setting. Now, we are on the day, so we won't see much here. But what we can do is we can switch the light off. This is, let me see where it is, here. Now, it is full daytime, of course, but we can switch the light off if we want to observe it as it was night. But what is more important for us is, of course, constellations. These are found here. If you hover over it, we can have the figures, just the glyph. Then we can have, look here, the names, and then we can have our images, right? So now we are set. We have our ecliptic, the red line. You can change the colors, by the way, right? I have the ecliptic, and then I have the equator. I prefer working without the light. I see it better, right? So we have our two, let's say, major lines. Now, with the mouse, you can make it smaller, or you can zoom in it. For example, you want to see what the sun does, right? Here's the sun. You can zoom into it, and now you can change the time. If you want to know when exactly the sun was on the equator, and hence when was the equinox, you would just slowly move it backwards, but with a zoom, it doesn't work actually. You would move it like this, and then you can move it by hours, quicker or slower as you want. What is important, you can search for planets. Let's say I want to know where Mars is. Mars is here. And then it will show me where the planet is. Now, Mars comes, when you click a planet, it usually comes with a lot of information, which you can see here. But usually we don't need all this information. So we go on our instruments, and there is the icon information. You click on it, and now we have all the informations clicked. Usually I use my customized, very few, the name, the right ascension, the azimuth, and the ecliptic coordinates. This is enough for me. But of course you can change this. So I have just 4 information that I need to work with. Okay. So let's say we want to observe something in particular. We want to see, well, let's say how Mars' position changes. So we can change it by day. You can observe it. You can also change by month. You see a quicker motion. We always follow the planet that we want to look at. For example, now we see, okay, we could observe when Mars will be exactly, for example, here it would match the fixed star Alheka. We would see this as a conjunction, for example. So this is how we can use Stellarium very easily. But there's more to explore. So we can have an equatorial grid. We need some information that is related to the equator. So these are the parallels from the equator, so we can see, right? So we would immediately see if a planet is north or south of the equator. This is very helpful. But if we don't use the equatorial grid, we can use, the ecliptic grid, which is of course different, right? So now we would have, by the way, this is the azimuthal grid. Anyway, you can switch from one to the other grid. I usually don't use it so much because it makes it all a little cluttered. You can have the names of the planets on and off if you don't need them because you're maybe just looking at the sun or a specific planet. You can switch them off. You can have all kind of more information. You can have the satellites in and out. You can make your animations. You can see comets and meteorites. If you click this icon, then you have to be, lucky enough to find them. So this is basically what I do on a daily basis. There are more icons. For example, you can say, what do you want to see? What is very helpful is the brightness saturation of the Milky Way. If you work with that, for example, let's say I want to study something in particular, I make the Milky Way just brighter and can observe it better, like this. See? So in this way, I could easily see where it starts and finishes. I can also see, okay, let's say a few hours later, I want to see where the Milky Way sets, right? Or maybe the other part of the Milky Way. So I can maybe just see what happens. This looks pretty different, right? You would see how the Milky Way changes positions over the month, right? So there is a much to observe with this software. Yeah, there are lots of tools, plugs in and stuff. This is maybe useful for those who already a little bit more familiar. There are also tools for more astrological tools. Actually, I never used them. I have my own ephemeris in the programs, but if you want, you can have more information here on the planets, on the moons of the planets, all kind of information. The eclipses when they come, probably you need to download something more. I never use them. I have my astrology tools for that. But what is important, you can change the size of, for example, the moon. You can make it bigger or smaller. You can show the orbits, which is sometimes important, right? So, for example, you can click on the one that you need. Let's say I want to see just Venus, and this is how I do it. So I can see, for example, when Venus crosses the ecliptic, or eventually when she crosses the equator, or when she met when she's in her nodes, right? I can see a lot of well, basically information with this tool, which is actually pretty interesting. And if I don't need it, I just click it away. You can have a lot of fixed stars. You can see them here. You can click different catalogs of things. You can see the meridian or the galactic grid or whatever you need. So, for example, you can see the ecliptic, the grid of the ecliptic. Before there was another button for the ecliptic grid, but now they have changed it. So now this would be the perspective of from the ecliptic, right? You would have the parallels from the ecliptic if you want to observe it. That is very interesting when you research, for example, latitude, right? Well, I think for the moment, that's the most important information that you can use on a daily basis. Very quickly, let's say, set up. I usually have only this as working tools. It's already full of information. But well, for the moment, that's all. And I hope you can use the information directly with your Stellarium software. Bye-bye.